over that, but I will share one hadith that always speaks to me and reminds me of the work that we're doing and why we're doing it. So the Prophet ﷺ said, one who cares for widows and the poor is like those who fight in the way of Allah, or those who spend their days fasting and their nights praying. So the two things that he mentioned, fighting in the way of Allah and fasting during the day and praying during the night, these are things that are so difficult to do, realistically speaking. It's not as easy as donating. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it so easy for us to get the reward for doing that just by donating to support and to help and take care of widows and the poor. And it also reminds me of, the staff that we have, the people like Rina and the caseworkers and the house managers that we have at our homes who are going in every single day in the middle of all this. We're an essential service, so we can't, unfortunately, do our work from home. We can't provide the support and the services that we do for our residents from our homes. So they're putting themselves in danger. They're going out every day to make sure that these women are supported and these children are supported and they have the opportunity to heal and to overcome everything they've been through. But they can't do without our support. And it's definitely difficult, but I believe that we can definitely show them that support today through our donations and through all the other things we're going to talk about. And I think that, one of the blessings that we're given in being able to be part of this today is just to highlight the fact that we're an essential service, but we're also reliant on donations. We operate purely on donations, and that's very scary for us because Ramadan was essentially where we raised about 80% of our money, and now we don't know what Ramadan is going to look like. So for many Muslim charities, now everyone's kind of rethinking what they're going to do, how they're going to do it. And we need your support. And every dollar that you send tells us that, you've got our back and you're going to help us make sure that we get through this difficult time and inshallah get out stronger even, inshallah. So please do remember this. Obviously, the donate link is available, nisahomes.com/donate. We'll make sure to share it. I'm sure it's already been shared. But throughout this session that we have, Rina is going to talk a bit more about what we do and how we do it, share some stories, of course. And if you have any questions, please do let us know, inshallah. Go ahead, Rina.
Okay, so assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Rina Banza. As Yasmin has said, that I am the mental health lead at Nisa Homes, and RP stands for registered psychotherapist. So I am a qualifying registered psychotherapist right now. And what mental health lead really means at Nisa Homes is that I oversee the one-on-one counseling as well as the wellness programming. So any activities that has to do with, promoting women's health, that's what I'm responsible for. And so apart from the one-on-one counseling, the group counseling, we do a lot of wellness activities that we'll talk about later on that are really key in order to help these women integrate back into the community.
Okay, so can you help the viewers understand what are the issues that women coming to Nisa Homes are facing, or what are they dealing with?
Okay, that's an important one. Well, a lot of the women and children that come to Nisa Homes, we have to understand, have faced isolation. So they face isolation and they face a lot of violence. And with that come, mental health issues such as depression, PTSD, trauma, anxiety, and those are to name. Children usually on a spectrum of various issues. A lot of the times they face a lot of behavioral problems, and we have to understand that that's a very common response to experiencing violence or witnessing violence. And for us, we understand that the children need attachment. They need a form of regularity. And so what we try to do, the mental health workers, the caseworkers, we try our best to connect these children with schools and regular get that normalcy. Their moms are free to work with us, and that's when we do the work in order to integrate the moms back into the community.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I mean, what is it that Nisa Homes does to help these women? So I know we mentioned the counseling, and I know I talked a bit about the other stuff, but can you just explain a bit more what that actually means, like on a very basic level on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so people often wonder, right? What do you do at Nissa Homes? You know, my children don't know what I do at Nissa Homes because obviously the location is not revealed to people, right? So every day I go off to work and they wonder where I'm going. A lot of people wonder, what do you do at Nissa Homes? What happens inside the house? And I must say this, that it's a team effort. We have caseworkers, we have managers, we have donors, we have volunteers, we have very passionate individuals that believe in the cause, and we all come together to provide the service. And apart, you know, from the supportive counseling that I do, I provide this safe space where women can be heard. Remember, these women have been in silence for a very long time. They haven't shared their story. They've been too afraid to share their story. So we provide that safe space for them to finally speak about what's happened to them if they want to speak. With that, I also ensure that I refer to mental health services in the community. And a huge part of what we do at Nissa Homes is something called a life skills training. Okay, so with that, keep in mind that a lot of these women are very strong, resilient women. They've been stopped from the basic human, you know, necessities and needs. Things like, you know, working, taking the bus, connecting to their friends and community. All this has been taken away from them. So the life skills program that is mainly done by our caseworkers teach them these basic skills that you and I may take for granted. Things like, you know, how do you open a bank account? You know, how do you take the transit? How do you create a resume or find a job? And how do you look for housing? Because that's our mandate. Even things like conversational skills, right? And these are the very empowerment tools that help these women go back and live successfully.
That's awesome. So, talking about successfully, can you share some success stories with us from women that have been to Nissa Homes?
Oh goodness, Yasmin, what a question. Out of the hundreds and hundreds of women that I've worked with, they're all success stories, mashallah, every single one of them. Um, but there's one that stayed with me, the one that actually hooked me onto Nissa Homes, because the people that know me, the work I do there, I started off as a volunteer years ago, and I stayed back. So I'll share with you a story of this young lady who came into Nissa Homes. I remember that day wearing all white. Top to bottom, she was wearing white. And she came in silence and very bruised. Um, for many weeks, she slept in a fetal position, and that was due to severe domestic violence. She didn't speak to anybody. She barely ate. She barely stepped out of the room. And she did stay with us for a couple of months. And in that time, very slowly, what we did is we just stayed present with her at her pace. We started to cook with her slowly, have tea with her, do some art with her. Sometimes I would spend days just sitting out in the sun with her. No words were exchanged. Nothing was exchanged, but we would just sit together. And you know, by the end of the 3 months, Yasmin, she was on the transit system. She was in counseling with a mental health worker outside of the home. She was in language classes, so learning English, and she was also planning out her career in nursing. And that's exactly what she did many months after she left us, is she went into a program in nursing. And as I said to you, you know, this is one of the reasons I stayed back. Last year, she visited us at Nissa Home's Eid party, and she brought her mom, who she sponsored from back home. So this is her alone. She did this as soon as she was, you know, given the tools, she ran with it. And this story stayed with me because it really put me in an awe of the transformation of what support and empowerment can do, right? It's actually addictive to watch these women break through from something or someone that was holding them back one day, and to become into who they want to be is truly a blessing to be part of.
SubhanAllah, I remember meeting her, and I remember when she was telling me like, thank you for everything that Rena had done and Nissa Holmes had done. She was crying, and I started crying, and it was just a tear fest basically. But alhamdulillah, like it's so wonderful to hear that. And I know, excuse me, I know from a lot of the women that I've worked with too, like when they leave, I mean, just, it's so incredible to see what they can achieve. You know, I know women that all we did was give them a sewing machine, and you know, we touched base a month or a couple of months later, and they had like 50 clients coming in, and they're making money left, right, and center, alhamdulillah. So I mean, it's so incredible to see how much they can achieve, and it can achieve because they're just given the opportunity, they're just given the chance. And we know women are so strong. Women are the ones that basically have supported this community, this society. Basically, we're the backbone, and when given the opportunity, they can excel, mashallah.
Yeah. And how many times, Yasmin, do women come back with their zakat, right? Or they end up volunteering, right? So this is, and she did that. She came back with their zakat, and I can, you know, not name, but tell many stories where women come back and say, here's the zakat money, now you do for others what you guys did for us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. We have one lady who I honestly, you know, when she left, I was worried about how she would, you know, get by. And she comes back and donates every month about $500 worth of household items and groceries for us. And just to be able to donate 500 means you have 500 extra to donate, right? So just that concept to me is just incredible. And this is when I go back to saying every ounce of support we give them, every dollar, everything that we give them goes so long in helping these women. Because like I said, women, you give them nothing and they will create something. And mashallah, like these women are given something and they create so much more. And they show their children, they show other residents, they show other people in the community that this is what can happen with your support when we work together and when we come together for each other, basically. So my next question is, so why should people care about this population? I know we talk about, you know, we've all heard the statistics, and I mentioned there's 600 women that we've sheltered. There's another 2,000 women that we've tried to help outside of our homes because they couldn't, or we didn't have space to support them. But as a community, obviously, you know, this is not the main topic that we talk about often. We don't like to talk about domestic violence. Obviously, we also support women that are just homeless. We support women that are new immigrants or refugees. So it's not just domestic violence. It ends up being the majority, of course. But why should people care about these people? Like, I mean, if it doesn't happen to all of us, what difference does it make, really?
I mean, you raised an amazing point, and Sister Amira talked a little bit about the marginalized communities. And, you know, this is a population that is underserved. They're marginalized in every way you can think of, you know, poverty, race, mental health, you name it. They also receive the least amount of funding, the least amount of attention. It's a difficult population to talk about, as you said so, because they're stigmatized, right? Yet Muslim women who suffer violence and who are homeless, it's a real thing, right? And until I started working with Nisa Homes years ago, I didn't realize how real it was. So it's something for us to acknowledge that this actually happens in our community. And for homes like ours and others to open up and pop up tells you the need to talk about this issue. We should think about them because they're amongst us, Yasmin, right? We don't know them. They may be silent. You know, I can't tell you the amount of times that I have bumped into somebody at Starbucks or at the masajid, and I have to be in silence, right? And they have to pretend they don't know me, and I have to pretend I don't know them because of the stigma associated with it. But they've passed through Nisa Homes, right? And these are people that we know. These are people that you know, that you stand beside at grocery stores and masajids and places that, you know, we congregate. And we may not be able to directly help them. So maybe each of us cannot do the one-on-one work that, you know, other people are blessed to do. However, we can become part of causes that do the work. And when we become part of those causes in whatever way, whether through being an ambassador or your donations or your dua, then you become part of that story. Then you become part of that change, and you become part of the change that we are doing frontline. Because without you, we can't do it, right? And so Nisa Homes today, mashallah, from the time I started, we have professionals in the forms of staff, volunteers, ambassadors who do the work. And you know, I always say to people that it's a puzzle piece, and we're all part of that puzzle. We just have to each figure out which puzzle we are part of, and then we can come together and make sure that the work is being done. And so, you know, as a community, as I keep saying, You, I, and everyone watching today have become part of that puzzle. And now how you want to get involved is going to be your choice. We can't do it without you.
100%. I mean, you touch on such a good point, is that, you know, from where we were to where we are now, alhamdulillah, it's night and day. We've definitely done so much to raise awareness about this. But I think more important than that is understanding that what we do is not something that's just an extra, you know, an extra support or something. This is an essential service, and I talked about this, but this is also, it's a lifeline for many women, and it's their last option. Women don't just choose to come to Nisa homes because they feel like it or they're having a bad day. They come because they're literally on the street, or they're about to be on the street, or they have nowhere else to go. And that's exactly the population we're working with. And, you know, I mean, a lot of people wonder, especially now, you know, the government is providing so many supports. They're giving, you know, they're giving all the EI and everything like that. And even before, we would get that question so much, you know, there's government shelters. Why are you doing this? There's so many reasons that we're doing this. One of the very, very basic ones is that every night more than 3,000 women and children are homeless because they don't have space in shelters. That in and of itself tells you that there's a huge need for this. And I can imagine just from the numbers we're dealing with, many of them are Muslim women. They are Muslim women and they are Muslim children that are being left either on the streets or to go couch surfing in people's apartments or to go back to unsafe situations. And, you know, the one other thing I want to mention from what you talked about is, you know, the difference this makes in our lives. I know personally times where I've been like, you know, I've been in a difficult situation, and subhanAllah, the barakah comes from Allah and the solution comes from Allah, even without me trying, without me doing anything. And I think back, and my husband tells me this, it's because of the work we do for Nisa Homes. It's because of what we do and the amount of time and effort and energy, the blood, sweat, and tears we put into Nisa Homes, subhanAllah. And that, you know, it's not just for us, it's also for all the other donors and supporters we have. That you don't know that $1 that you might give, what barakah it will put in your life, and what amount of support and what Allah will protect you from because of that $1. And subhanAllah, you know, I've seen it in my life. I cannot even like count the number of times where I've been like, how on earth am I going to get out of this, or what's going to happen? And subhanAllah, I know that, you know, I mean, I'm assuming, inshallah, I hope this is why, but I do believe that it's that this work that puts barakah in it. And, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does say that give charity, for it stands in the way of calamity, especially at a time like this when, you know, calamity unfortunately is huge and it's in front of our faces and it's everywhere. Doing this can, inshallah, we don't know if this $1 you give to Nisa Homes or to any support will be that basically that barrier between you and whatever might happen, inshallah. So again, I want to update everyone. We have passed more than $1,000 so far in donations raised. And I mean, I'm already shaking. So I'm not a fundraiser, and neither is Rina. So we're doing this because we believe in the cause. And I'm just so blown away, mashallah, by the support. So jazakumullah khair. We're going to keep going. We have a few more questions that we want to get through. So, Rina, can you tell me about right now in the situation we're in? I talked about COVID. I talked about, you know, the difficulties we're all facing. But what does this mean from a mental health perspective, especially for our residents, especially for women experiencing any kind of troubles at Nisa Homes or outside of it?
Well, as we know in the news, it's a horrible situation for women experiencing domestic violence at home. Right now, getting to them is the hardest thing possible. For them to get out is the hardest thing possible. So this is something that haunts us. I know you and I talk about this almost daily, where we feel almost, you know, paralyzed because we can't help like we want to help. In terms of the women at the homes, I'm doing a lot of my counseling online, right? And we see all the homes across the provinces, mental health services are cut by like 90%. Everyone's trying to get counseling. Women are coming from isolation, as I said earlier, coming with depression, anxiety, PTSD, and we're trying to fix this over online services. So the barriers are huge, but you know, every time I work with them, as you said, sometimes I don't know if they counsel me or I counsel them, because the strength they give me, this is resilience at its peak. You know, you want to talk about women and empowerment and growth and hope. And this is at its peak when you work with these women and you see the battles they're fighting and how they stand strong. And they tell me, we're going to get through this, right? You can't get any higher hope and resilient than this, mashallah. So this is just some of it that we're facing. And you know, as a manager across provinces, what do you see in terms of what's happening with the COVID-19?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're seeing a ton of calls come in. You're right. The services are so limited right now, and this is the scary part, is that normally women do have support. They do have places to go. You know, if their husband is going out for work, or if they go out for work, you know, it gives them a break. Or if, you know, not just husband, any abuser, it gives them a break. Right now, there's no break. You're stuck at home with your abuser 24/7. Tensions are very high. We're all stressed out, whether we're in these situations or not. We're all stressed out with the uncertainty and the anxiety and just, you know, the fear of what's happening, and obviously the financial burden of what's going on. And reports have shown time and again, whenever there's financial struggles going on, domestic violence rates go up. And whenever, you know, right now we're hearing reports coming out of Italy and China and other countries that domestic violence calls have tripled. We're seeing that here for sure. Many of the shelters that we're in touch with, and we're in touch with shelters across Canada, they're saying their calls are tripling, but the support that they can provide is so limited. Even for us, we are on a weekly basis, I'm dealing with 2 or 3 women that we're trying to get out of abusive situations, but we can't because they're stuck, their abuser's right there. They can't even talk on the phone. Some days when they're trying to, where we're like, okay, we're going to send you a car, we're going to meet you here, we're going to do this, I can't because my abuser took my phone, or I can't because he took one of the children, or I can't because I haven't been able to grab my stuff because he's just watching me the whole day. And you know, this is terrifying for us because some of these women have told us their abusers have threatened to kill them. Their abusers have threatened to take their children away. Their abusers have threatened to take their food away. So we're talking about, you know, this is life or death, and our support is, you know, it's bare minimum that we can do at this time. But I encourage anyone, of course, if you're going through anything, or if you know anyone who's going through anything, reach out to us. Let us know. We will do everything in our power. We're literally reaching out to people via text, sometimes via email, any way that we can that's going to be safe to make sure that they're safe. We're doing it. And one of the stories I think that stuck with me really is, you know, we're still getting stories from people. I thought it would be different right now. I honestly thought people would just be okay in their homes until things got better, but life happens for some people. One lady called us, her house burnt down, and in the middle of all this, she's like, I have no idea where to go. No, none of my friends want to take me in because they're all terrified. We had another lady call in. She's 17-year-old child whose family had kicked her out during this crisis, and she was couch surfing, again increasing her risk for obviously COVID, increasing her risk for anything happening to her. But reality is, you know, there's nowhere else to go, and we're having to put people up in hotels and motels because same thing, we've had people come to us who have been sick, so we can't bring them to the home because we don't want to get other women sick, so we have to put them in hotels. And that's a big part of where our cost is coming. When I say 500 to shelter these women, it's helping us put women who have nowhere else to go in at least a hotel until they can come to Nissa homes, or they can go anywhere else. And this is a bare basic necessity, really. But it's scary because we're definitely seeing an increase. You know, before COVID, we were getting about 200 calls a month. Now we're getting more than 200 calls a week. Now we're getting more than 400 a week, and we can't keep up. It's just insane demand, and it's scary because we want to do, like, this is our responsibility to be able to help these people. And again, this is where your money goes, to make sure that we can, to make sure that when anyone calls us, we can do something to at least put a safe roof over their head. So to end off, Rena, because we only have a couple of minutes left, one story that sticks out to you. I know you said one story before, but can you give us another one that, you know, just still is on your mind?
Okay, so I'll try and make this, I think, in a minute, right? I have about a minute left. And this one, ready for this one? Because this one really blew my mind. It's an original. So a couple of years ago, we had a lady who had not only suffered severe domestic violence, but in her home country, but she was also a victim of refugee camps. And so she, you know, faced hunger, the cold, isolation, everything. And she had 10 children. Okay, this is a lady, yeah, 10 children. And she was everybody's strength in the house. She used to cook and clean, and she used to, empower the other women with her 10 children. And mashallah, she was a strength for them. She was strength for me. And I would find her like combing their hairs and, doing the cooking with them and giving them strength and talking them through everything. And many times I wondered, I sat with her many times and thought, am I your counselor or are you my counselor? Because the power and the resilience I got from her was unlike anything else. And I don't know where she is today, but I know that when she left Nissa Homes, she wasn't speaking English when she came, but she was speaking broken English. She was in language classes. Her kids were in school. She was on the transit. And when I mean she spoke no English, just mean she spoke zero. And with her 10 children today, may Allah bless her soul, wherever she is, I'm sure she's making a huge difference in the community. So I wanted to end with, a more positive story to let you know that this is where women can go, mashallah.
And I wanna say, you reminded me of one story. I remember when I went to one of the Nissa homes one time, I walked in, and we'll end with this, I promise. They're giving me the cue. I promise. This is just one last story. I walked in, and at that time we had 5 women, each one from a different country, each one speaking a different language, barely able to communicate. And I walk in, and what do I see? I see them all sitting and trying to read Quran together and trying to teach each other Quran. And I remember looking at that, and I'm like, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, I mean, especially with Ramadan coming up, and I know it's going to be a strange Ramadan for all of us, but walking in and seeing them, they don't know how to communicate with each other, but they're sitting there reading Quran together and trying to, tell each other, this is the word, that is the word. And that, like, for me was just, it was so heartwarming. And I know we see them, in Ramadan praying together and having iftar together. And this is what we mean by building a community. And this is what we mean by helping them heal and, allowing us all to heal together. So may Allah continue to bless Nissa Homes and the work that everyone is doing, and especially the work that the frontliners are doing and going into the home. And I do want to end off with one last thing. Someone just made a $5,000 donation, alhamdulillah. So we've gone above and beyond our goal for the day, and jazakumullah khair. It means so much to us and to everyone that has supported the cause and the women that we've helped. And I mean, I can't even say much, but all I want to say is may Allah reward everyone, and may Allah accept it from everyone. I hope today was beneficial, and please feel free to reach out to us. Definitely help us spread the word right now. But if you want to help out, we can't volunteer in the homes right now, but there's so much we can do online. Please reach out to us. We're going to share our email, and we're going to share our website. It's nissahomes.com. And please obviously encourage your friends and family to support the work we're doing. We run purely on donations, so every dollar you give will make a huge, huge difference to us, inshallah.
Mashallah. Thank you guys so much. I'm left with tears as I leave. And may Allah accept from every single one of you for everything that you do. And if you can't give today, please give in du'as, because that's what we need. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakumullah khair.
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullahu khair, Sister Rina and Sister Yasmin. That was amazing. Those stories really, really blew us away, mashallah. I am seeing the comments, and it sounds like it touched a lot of people. It's really quite an honor that we were a part of hearing these stories. And mashallah, a lot of us were able